Now, you watched the debate this week. Any impressions in that debate? Everybody says that Gingrich did very well.
Ron Paul needs to shh on foreign policy. Shh. Keep that to yourself. You sound a little like Osama bin Laden at times.
But I think what people fail to realize is Ron Paul is not some peacenik. He's not some person that's going to disband the army. What he's arguing mostly is on procedural grounds in regard to foreign policy. When somebody asks him whether or not he would bomb Iran if we had proof that they had a nuclear weapon, his answer is no. Not because he doesn't see that as a threat, but because the executive doesn't have the unilateral authority under the Constitution to bomb Iran.
Then wait a minute, wait. Man, I would love you to convince me of this.
Under what circumstances, if you were president, Congressman Paul, would you intervene outside the borders of the United States in some sort of crisis around the world?
When Congress directed me to in an act of war, if our national security was threatened and we went through the proper procedures, Congress would say our national security is involved, it's threatened, and we have to act, and Congress has that responsibility. The president is the commander-in-chief, and then he acts.
I mean, that's what we should be addressing. But I wish the Congress would address the unconstitutionality of presidents waging war. That, to me, is a lot more serious than Monica Lewinsky, let me tell you.
But let me give you a sticking point. When he defends Iran and saying, well, shouldn't they have a bomb? What's wrong with them having a bomb?
Obviously, I would like to see a lot less nuclear weapons. I don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I would like to reduce them because there would be less chance of war.
That throws that argument that you're making right out the window.
That shows his naivete.
Is it worth going to war to prevent a nuclear weapon in Iran?
No, it isn't worthwhile. And the only way you would do that is you would have to go to the Congress. We as commander-in-chief aren't making the decision to go to war. You know, the old-fashioned way, the Constitution, you go to the Congress and find out if our national security is threatened. So no, it's not worthwhile going to war. If you do, you get a declaration of war and you fight it and you win it and get it over with.
For Iran's nuclear ambitions, you wrote this: one can understand why they might want to become nuclear capable, if only to defend themselves and to be treated more respectfully.
And just think of how many nuclear weapons surround Iran. The Chinese are there, the Indians are there, the Pakistanis are there, the Israelis are there, the United States is there. All these countries, China has nuclear weapons. Why wouldn't it be natural that they might want a weapon? Internationally, they'd be given more respect.
The bottom line is, we were directly attacked on our soil by terrorists. Ron Paul did not support taking action against those who perpetrated the act. But Ron Paul believes we shouldn't have gone into war in Iraq or even Afghanistan, despite being attacked on 9/11. When virtually everybody agreed the terrorists had ties to Afghanistan and the Taliban, the leadership of that country, he said no.
You didn't even want to go into Afghanistan to punish those people, did you?
Well, you're wrong, Bill. You're wrong on that. I voted for that. So you be careful on your quotes. I mean,
well, in a debate, you said you don't want to be there. You don't want to be in Afghanistan.
Well, they didn't do what we were supposed to. We were supposed to go after Osama bin Laden. We let him go into Pakistan.
And Rob, how do you feel when he says things like this?
So we endlessly bomb these countries, and then we wonder why they get upset with us.
We endlessly bomb these countries? Do you believe that? But do you believe that? Do you believe that we endlessly bombed Iraq and apparently other countries, because he used plural there, leading up to 9/11?
I have a prepared statement for tomorrow, and in that statement I talk about a much more serious act that the president committed than anything that we've generally talked about. And that was the illegal bombing of Sudan and Afghanistan. $200 million were spent for that without congressional approval.
Well, we did bomb Iraq, yes. In '98, Clinton bombed Iraq without congressional approval.
Yeah. I know, but is that an endless bombing that caused 9/11? Did we cause 9/11?
It's not really endless when you've done it once.
So now,
a much more serious act that the president committed, and that was the illegal bombing of Sudan and Afghanistan.
He, at best, makes a very poor case against Islamic extremism. He is on record over and over and over again saying that we caused that.
That's the problem. It wasn't just last night.
We didn't cause that.
I don't see that we have the authority to all of a sudden impose our system of justice across the entire world. I do not think it's effective. I think it drums up more anti-American hostility more than it achieves justice.
It has nothing to do with national security. Matter of fact, our national security is more jeopardized by permitting this to happen because we're liable to start a war. We're liable to have our military men killed. We're liable to have more attacks on us by terrorists.
Our foolish policy in Iraq invites terrorist attacks against U.S. territory and incites the Islamic fundamentalists against us. Our foreign policy of military interventionism has brought us death and destruction to many foreign lands and loss of life for many Americans. From Korea and Vietnam to Serbia, Iran, Iraq, and now Afghanistan, we have ventured far from our shores in search of wars to fight. There is no evidence that this policy serves the interests of world peace. It certainly increases the danger to all Americans as we become the #1 target of terrorists. Our arrogant policy and attitude of superiority will continue to elicit a smoldering hatred toward us, and out of sheer frustration will motivate even more terrorist attacks against us.
Okay, let me go to Shane. Shane, go ahead. You're on the Glenn Beck program.
2 quick points. One, Ron Paul did say in an earlier debate very clearly, which is exactly what you said, he thinks that if we go into war, that we should destroy our enemies, pound them into dust, and then come home.
And have you ever heard Ron Paul speak passionately about wiping our enemies out? I never sense that passion to say, look, when someone comes over here and screws with us, we end it. And we do it quickly and we get over it. He never speaks like that.
Yeah, that leads perfectly into what I was going to ask. And that is, under what specific circumstances would you, as President, Dr. Paul, ask Congress for a declaration of war?
Well, if we're threatened, if our national security is threatened, somebody brought up the subject, and we don't know the details of what he was describing, but he said to me, he says, what if there was a major military operation by some foreign operation that was going to close down the Panama Canal? What would you do? And, of course, the temptation now for most candidates and presidents is, I'd be there in a minute and I'd blow them all up. I said I would get the information, I'd study it, I'd take it to the Congress, and if they thought that it was indeed a threat and an attack which would lead to a direct attack on America and our national security was threatened, I'd ask him for a declaration of war. But then it would be all out. I mean, I would know exactly who the war has been declared against and fight the war, win it, and get it over with.
9/11 is far from the first example of a Muslim extremist and extremist terrorism against the United States. In the late 1700s, the Muslim Barbary pirates attacked hundreds of ships at sea.
I would know exactly who the war has been declared against.
They took our sailors and made them slaves. They demanded ransom. They extorted hundreds of thousands and eventually even millions of dollars from us over a 2-decade period until John Adams finally built an American Navy and Thomas Jefferson put it to use against the pirates.
I said I would get the information, I'd study it, I'd take it to the Congress, and if they thought that it was indeed a threat and an attack which would lead to a direct attack on America and our national security was threatened, I'd ask him for a declaration of war. But then it would be all out.
George Washington remarked,
To be prepared for war is one of the most effectual means of preserving the peace.
I would say your question suggests you're very confused about my position. I want to cut money, overseas money. That's what I want to do. I want to cut military money. I don't want to cut defense money. I want to bring the troops home. I'd probably have more bases here at home. Eisenhower advised us, watch out for the military-industrial complex. Defend this country. We have to have a strong national defense, but we don't get strength by diluting ourselves in 900 bases, 130 countries. That is where the problem is. But you need to understand that there's a difference between just military spending and defense spending.
I'm asking you, should we have fought World War II? He says no. we have spent more time talking about the things we agree with on Ron Paul, but there are things that we vehemently disagree with.
You still don't understand. You don't understand there's a difference between military spending and defense spending. Just because you spend $1 billion on an embassy in Baghdad, bigger than the Vatican, you consider that defense spending. I consider that waste. So...
Well, you know what our first foreign war was? With Islam.
But to declare war on 1.2 billion Muslims and say all Muslims are the same, this is dangerous talk.
If you don't think that government should force us into charity, then no one in government should force my taxpayer money, and I'm a Jew. No one should force me to pay for Israel. That should come from my heart. There should be no foreign aid.
May I tell
whatsoever.
you something, Shane? I have no problem with that.
On foreign aid, that should be the easiest thing to cut. It's not authorized in the Constitution that we can take money from you and give it to particular countries around the world. To me, foreign aid is taking money from poor people in this country and giving it to rich people in poor countries.